शुरू करें आई थिंक लेट अस स्टार्ट.
Good evening, all, and welcome to the 8th monthly guest lecture organized by ISTD Indore Chapter, NHRDN Indore Chapter, and Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya Indore on the topic Differentiated Workforce, a Strategic Talent Management Intervention by guest speaker Dr. T.K. Mandal. I now invite Dr. Rajiv Shukla, Vice Chairperson ISTD Indore Chapter, to propose the welcome address. Sir, please.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Anu Madam. And on behalf of ISTD Indore chapter, I welcome all of you and especially Dr. T.K. Mandal, the resource person for today's monthly speech. And I congratulate ISTD Indore chapter for selecting this very important topic, differentiated workforce, a strategic talent management intervention. Actually, as we know, the change is a constant phenomena, and in today's challenging and competitive environment, especially due to this COVID-19, the effect of this COVID-19 had adversely affected the performance of the organizations. As in the beginning, we are talking about the different work culture. One is from work from home, and one from you can also attend this session due to technology from uh, uh, in driving to your car and bus as well. So this is a good indication in terms of that you can be connected anywhere you can go, but you may connected if you will to connect. Okay, so uh, as we know that in on technology front, the change is happening very fast, very rapid, and to keep pace with these changes, that can differentiate the organizations where they can take a competitive advantage by using this technological advancement, and actually it is being practiced majorly the this machine learning, the artificial intelligence, it is being used in industry for various functions of this HR functions like recruitment, selection, and for providing the training, etc. And so this how can we uh, uh, club this technology with the human power? So that is very important. I think this learning artificial intelligence may offer virtual assistance and act as a differentiating factors for workforce management. And so this is the one dimension that is related with the technology. And Dr. T.K. Mandal will share the multi-dimension approach, the aspects that what actually the differentiated workforce and what is the importance of strategic talent management intervention that will influence these dynamics of the workforce management. So with these words, once again, I welcome all of you. Dr. Anu, madam.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I now have the privilege to introduce our guest speaker for today, Dr. T.K. Mandal. Dr. T.K. Mandal is Professor in Management at Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya Indore. He also heads the School of Law and the Center of Excellence in Happiness Studies. Dr. Mandal is an alumnus of IIT Kharagpur and NITI Mumbai. He has 35 years of rich experience, including 11 years as Vice President HR with JK Paper, New Delhi, and 11 years as plant head with Aditya Birla Group. Dr. Mandal is a certified executive coach by Ericsson Coaching International, India. He is also an expert in job analysis and job evaluation, certified by Hay Group, now known as Korn Ferry. A trained assessor of competencies by SHL, Dr. Mandal is also certified by Thomas International for their psychometric assessments. Dr. Mandal is a recipient of Indira Super Achiever Award. He was also conferred upon 100 Most Talented Global HR Leaders by CHRO Asia in 2015 and 100 Top HR Minds in India by World HRD Congress in 2018. Dr. Mandal has written articles and featured in interviews in several print and electronic media, like Times of India Accent, TOI Online, Hindustan Times, Financial Express, Mint, Mail Today, Great Place to Work Institute, TimesJobs.com, Boardroom Conversations, etc. He was also a panel member of Business Schools ranking by Business and Economy. I now invite Dr. Mandal to please address the audience. Sir, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Shuklaji, for the welcome address. Yes, indeed, the topic that I'm going to talk on is workforce management. There's a slight difference between what I'm going to talk about and the traditional workforce management, about which we all know. So this is something different from what usually we know. Let me tell you, at this stage, there are two things behind the topic that I have chosen. Number one is this is not something which has come out of the blue and then I'm talking about it. It has got a strong uh, uh, research background, in the sense that I'll give you the reference at the end of the presentation. Uh, the entire concept was coined by three very eminent professors from I think one of them was from Harvard and a couple of them were from some of the top plus I think Ivy League universities. This is one thing. Second thing is the presentation that I prepared is based largely on the actual implementation experience that I had. I was fortunate to have of the topic. So my purpose of choosing this topic and choosing this particular presentation is to sort of give an awareness, give an understanding of what we mean by strategic talent management practice with difference. And there is a meaning of the word differentiated in differentiated workforce. I'll cover everything, all of that. But before that, I have to start with the presentation. Take you to the presentation screen. So I have a long list of slides. In fact, this is something which was prepared some time back. So I gave a final touch of it. I hidden some of the slides there. I think total 58 slides. But the ones that I've kept for presenting would be around 45. Even that is a long or tall order. So I request Anu, how much time I have, Anu? 40 odd minutes, 35, 40 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'll pace myself according to the time available and then take you through the different things that I have in mind. First, a little bit of overview. I was talking to you about the traditional workforce management, the different terminology we call human resources management, talent management.
Munda sir, please use the slide share mode.
Is it not coming?
Yeah, slide share mode is not coming. Slide is there, but use that slide share mode.
Oh, acha, it's not moving. Just 1 minute. So you're still on the first slide. You were still on the first slide?
Yeah.
I see. Just 1 minute. Okay, now it will be okay. Is it okay, sir?
Yeah, now it's okay, sir.
Yeah. So I was talking about this overview. The thing that I was talking about is the usual way, even what we claim to be the modern way of workforce management or human resource management. These are some of the examples of bullets that I've shown here. Like people take even very advanced HR implementing organizations talk about several new leadership development initiatives. There's emphasis on employer of choice for an organization. This is also known to be a modern workforce management practice. Focus on attracting top talent and demonstrating financial contribution of HR initiatives. We keep asking, HR, what for HR is there? What is the financial contribution? Everything ultimately, when in business, boils down to how much you earn. The financial results and the impact from the financial point of view. So these are certain things which all of us know it happens. Now, where is the line of sight as far as this kind of initiatives are concerned? The line of sight is, as we all could understand, is a success in workforce management. We want to showcase that in workforce management, in terms of workforce management, we were taking these particular initiatives and so on and so forth. So therefore, everything, the focus or line of sight is on managing workforce. However, where is strategic success? And again, as we know, any business exists to make money. To make money, there are certain strategies. So where is the strategic focus as far as this bombarding, HR initiatives are concerned? This is the question. So therefore, what in this particular concept, what we try to do is we put strategy first instead of people, instead of workforce. Slightly different, difficult to digest from even the modern manager, HR management point of view. So differentiated workforce management starts with strategy and not with workforce. Right? Workforce come later in terms of developing the workforce that delivers the strategy. And this is what is the fundamental change in the way we look at workforce strategy, as I mentioned earlier. And this is what we call as differentiated workforce strategy. I'll explain each of these separately. So in strategic talent management process, what we do is, this is the two terms. This was coined by one Professor Beatty, Richard Beatty, one of the authors of this particular book. He says, usually what we do is we go ahead with war for talent. The organizations fight with each other, compete with each other for attracting talent. Project oneself as the best employer, the better employer of choice, offering very lucrative compensations and terms of employment and so on and so forth. Everything is for attracting talent, and that's what we are referring here as war for talent. However, in strategic talent management process with differentiated workforce, we go for war with talent we already have, that the organization already has. So we declare a war with the talent that we already have. So fundamentally, the first one is a fundamental difference. The second concept under strategic talent management process is what we try to do is we put resources, which we call as A players. And we ensure that these A players do not pull the bullock carts. Okay, we'll come across these A players and C positions, etc. Later on. What are A positions and what are C positions? A players and B players and C players and so on and so forth. Okay, so fundamentally, resources are not to be put to pull bullock carts, and this leads to a concept of AAA, which is A positions, A players, and A customers. As I said earlier, the entire process, that is strategic talent process, starts with articulating business strategies. Okay, and this is done by answering fundamentally three questions. The business strategies. Number one is, how will we grow the business? Strategy has different connotations, different business. All of us, have come across. There are n number of definitions and n number of explanations of strategy. But then, strategy in the context of differentiated workforce management is, explained by these three fundamental questions. One is, how will we grow the business? I'll give some example at a later stage. Example from whatever I have done. I was a part of. So we will get to know about it. So this is one. The second one is, in what markets will we play? How to grow? Where will we play? And how will we win? By differentiating our offerings from the competition in those markets and capture a disproportionate share of wealth available in these markets. So growth, geography, and the way to beat the competition in the growth path. Okay. If anybody wants to ask anything in between, I think it is welcome, because at the end of the presentation we'll be probably losing track. So anywhere you can stop me and ask anything you feel like, or if you want to add anything, add any comment, you can do that. All right. So strategic talent management process, therefore, in the strategic talent, what happens is we identify the first on the basis of the business strategies. What are the business strategies? Those three questions. Identify what are the strategic capabilities required to enable the business to differentiate itself. So to meet those strategies, there are certain capabilities which the organization requires. Now, what are those capabilities which enables the business to differentiate itself such that it can win in this market? That means it can be better than its competitors. Important thing to note is these strategic capabilities. So capability is a word, is a term, okay, that we are now talking about. Their firm level capabilities are not individual capabilities. Individuals have different kinds of capabilities, but we are talking about organizational capabilities. These capabilities, their organization has several capabilities. Now, some capabilities are crucial for these strategies. We are talking about those as strategic capabilities. And to ensure that they are strategic capabilities, this is the criteria that we normally adopt. We ask, do these capabilities influence customers' perception of value? Do these capabilities enable us to charge our desired price? And we have certain capabilities because of which we have certain, it's not in unlimited sense. Desired price means your product or service for if the offer you offer can always attract a premium price from the customers. There are certain products you are ready to pay a little more than the nearest competitor or competing product. So is it that kind of is it suiting that kind of test? So P, that is price, value, price, and C is for enables does the capability enable us to produce at our desired cost? Okay, so these are the tests for selecting whether a particular capability of an organization matches or fits into the definition of strategic capability. We talk about the steps. There are few brief steps that we adopt while implementing the strategic talent management to differentiated workforce. The first one is, as we all must have smelt by now, what are the strategic capabilities for the organizations? Now, there can be certain capabilities which we have now, and there will be certain capabilities which we may not have now, but then we will require in line with the strategy of the business. Now, once we identify this, we identify the strategic positions. I'll talk about it, but let me give a brief about this. Strategic positions are those positions in an organization, not persons. Positions have to be differentiated from persons. So these are those positions which will deliver these capabilities to the organization. So organization, for example, in a project management organization, one of the strategic capabilities is maybe contract management. Contract management is a strategic capability. So there will be certain positions who will deliver that capability to the best possible extent. So they are the strategic positions. Now review talent in these strategic positions. Next come the individuals, the persons. So as far as those positions are concerned, who are the people who are manning those positions? So review of that is the third step. Build strategic talent inventory. So here what we do is for all strategic position holders. Okay, we prepared an inventory as to where do they stand in terms of their being, I mentioned in the beginning, A talent or B talent or C talent or D talent and so on and so forth. Okay, and having done that talent inventory, we plan for what are our talent targets. Where do we want these talents to be? A particular talent means individual, maybe at a particular level now. The target can be a level higher. These are all expressed in numerical terms. When I elaborate an example again, it will be clear. Now, once we do the talent target and talent map, we initiate differentiated HR actions to get the best from those talents in strategic positions. So here comes the fundamental difference in differentiated HR actions or differentiated workforce practices from traditional workforce management practices. We don't take HR actions on all and sundry in an organization. They are specific actions, differentiated actions, focusing only on the strategic position holders, talents who are manning the strategic positions, because ultimately they are going to deliver the result for the business. Here is a flow chart which I quickly take you through, depicting the entire process. The first one, as I said, is clarify the business strategy. How do we grow? Where do we play? How do we win? Then identify and define strategic capabilities, fulfilling the VPC criteria. The third one is assessing status of strategic capabilities. So where are we now, and where do we want to go? This may not be clear. We'll show you a separate map, which is a bigger one, a full screen one, where you'll see different capabilities here in the x-axis, and the y-axis you'll see the different levels of those capabilities. So there's a measurement way method wherein each of these capabilities are measured as of now, and these are the targets where you want these capabilities to go. Having done that, we prepare the initial list of strategic roles. Okay, the roles, as I said, these are not persons. Roles means positions. Now assess these roles against VPC criteria. Same criteria we adopt as we have done for strategic capabilities, and finalize the strategic role list. After that, we go ahead with identifying the incumbents in the strategic roles. That means the people who are holding these strategic positions holder, or strategic talents, any name you can use. Now assess these incumbents in strategic roles. This is an example, just 4 level of assessment: top talent, emerging talent, career level talent, and misplaced. Misplaced means this person has the the competencies or capabilities which do not match these capabilities required for the strategic role. So that person is misplaced. Person may be excellent and a very good performance, but doesn't fit the role. Something which is akin to what we call as a square peg in round hole. Square peg, there's nothing wrong with it, but then if you put it into round hole, it will not go in. So that kind of mismatch is what we call as misplaced. Building strategic human capital competency, and then finally we develop action plan to achieve desired talent profiles plus motivate retain. These are all various HR initiatives that we designed, focusing only on the strategic talent and not for everybody, just like Prasad distribution to everybody in the company. No. So there's a focused way of bringing in HR interventions. I'll skip this slide, take you to the some kind of example of how do we define or identify business strategy for a business, now for a particular business as defined earlier. Okay, remember, now this is what I'm going to show you is something which is not done across the table. This is an exercise which takes weeks and sometimes months. Okay. The first question is, what is the strategy for growing your business? You may remember, I said the first one is how will we grow, or where will we grow? How will you grow your customer and economic value for your business in the next 3 to 5 years horizon? It can be slightly different, but 3 to 5 years is a reasonable horizon to plan the growth, because strategic plans are normally done for this time horizon. Example is organic growth by focusing on first growing value-added products and grow faster than market growth rate. Market leadership retention through focus on quality, cost, and service. This is our strategy. Now, we define for product 1, product 2, and raw materials and so on and so forth, what is the short-term and interim strategy. This is elaborated. The first part, the bold-faced thing, is elaborated. And in terms of long-term capacity, product 1, we do capacity expansion. Product 2, we do additional capacity through expansion and a joint venture, debottlenecking, etc. In the short term and the long term, and so on and so forth. So this answers the first question. The second one, which asks where will we play? Will we play? What markets will you enter? The example is looks like this. For example, for product one segments, in the segments where will you play is jobbers, corporates, offices, home segment, retail, and so on and so forth. And geography wise, domestic 90%, explore future opportunities, so on and so forth. For product two segments will be only converters and so on and so forth. Not elaborating this specific to a particular business, but this should give enough idea about the answer to the second question. As I said again, each of these questions takes days, even weeks, to arrive at this kind of thing, and it's a work of combination of several brains of business leaders, uh, after which these things are arrived at. And the third question is, how will you win? How will you differentiate your product and service offerings in present and future markets? Capture a disproportionate share of markets. What will be your competitive advantage? This is the final question. So these are certain answers to these questions which are arrived at. So what will you do is, a strong marketing, distribution network, etc. Cost. This may look very generic, but they are not. When you work out these things, it needs a lot of effort, and each of these sentence and even words are very well thought of. Okay. So these are certain examples as answers to the third question as far as strategy is concerned. Then you come to the strategic capabilities, okay, which I was mentioning about. What capabilities create customer and economic value? I am almost halfway through customer value. I'll skip this. This is a diagnosis way to diagnosis the strategic capability. There are four defined questions, which one answers yes or no, and this is sort of a toolkit. Going straight away with the strategic capability example. So in case of the first one is Walmart, and these are real ones. These are nothing, no imaginary. This is something which these guys have reported having done as a consultancy assignment with these companies. So as in Walmart, logistic and distribution process is a strategic capability. Okay, now they wanted the strategic capability. They wanted it to be not matched by its competitors. Logistic and distribution process. So this is one of the strategic capability by Walmart. There are other examples also. For example, Colgate, consumer insight, Mark, research development, McDonald's, real estate. Maybe surprising for you, but then this was one of the strategic capabilities for McDonald's. TCS, systems design, and so on and so forth. Each strategic capability, what you see here, are actually defined, and the meaning of the strategic capability has to lie within the definition that is arrived at. Again, this definition is a work of very rigorous process. Okay, I've highlighted the second one, which is much easier to understand for everybody, in a project management capability for this particular organization. So these are the strategic capabilities. There are more, there could be more, but one of them I picked up, for example, is project management, and the definition goes like this: achieving outstanding execution in every project where we undertake by selecting the right project team, technology, suppliers, equipment, etc., so on and so forth. Achieving 90% capacity utilization in 3 months of commissioning and 100% in 1 year. This organization has defined its project management capability as this. So this is what this looks like, how a strategic capability looks like. I was showing you in that flowchart maps. This is the strategic capability map of General Electric. So you can see here, the 5 strategic capabilities. Ideally, strategic capabilities are, around 5. So 4 to 6 is the ideal number. More than that is difficult to manage. You have strategic capabilities. For each strategic capability, you have several roles or strategic positions. For each position, you have one or more position holders. You have to manage all those people. You have to manage their HR interventions, their work, their management, the entire workforce management for those people in a altogether different way, in a focused way, which costs money. So that's the reason we keep the strategic capability to a limited number, 5 here. So you can see here leadership for General Electric. These are the present ones, current level. Okay, so these are 5 different levels as defined by them, world-class, elite, highly competitive, and abysmal. So different that general elective, they had defined their strategic ability to be at level 5, and they wanted it to be to remain at level 5, and so on and so forth. You can see brand management for general elective, they had assessed at level 2, but they wanted it to go up to level 4. This is a plan for 5 years, 3 to 5 years. Similarly, Lockheed Martin, one of the famous companies in US, this is their strategic capability map. They had, you can see here, there are 6 strategic capabilities. Program management is one. Unfortunately, Lockheed Martin, who is supposed to be very strong in program management, as per their own assessment, they were at level 2. Okay, so these are examples of how to assess and pick the strategic capabilities in the beginning. Moving over to strategic positions, these are the roles that create customer and economic value. Very often, a question is asked. It's a common sort of you can say misnomer or lack of understanding that we consider leaders as strategic position holders. So this is the question that has been raised here. Are the leaders always strategic role holders, or leadership positions are strategic roles? No, not always. Not all leadership roles are strategic. And naturally, the ones that are strategic, they require A players. Okay, it will be clear when I show you certain examples. These are what? Yes, these are certain strategic capabilities and their positions. In their positions, I'll skip this. For example, I just show 1 or 2. In Nordstrom, the strategic capabilities are these 5. Okay. For example, in buying, I don't know whether it's clear to you, very small letters. In supply chain, these positions are system designers and logistics engineers, not the supply chain head. Okay. In buying, the fashion buyers and purchasing contractors are the strategic positions, and so on and so forth. Okay. The question is, do you have top talent in those strategic positions, the ones that I shown here? The idea behind the entire initiative is to have top talents, or A talent, the best players, the best horse in these positions. Okay. तभी जाके जो है ना, this the roles will move, the strategic capabilities will move, and ultimately the strategies will be delivered for the organization. So when we ask this question, we identify strategic positions. One of the most important thing is to notice that the strategic positions directly impact the firm's strategic success and creates wealth for a firm. Okay, I'm not taking through the remaining bullets. These are certain add-on points related to strategic positions. Okay, and instead I'm going straight away to a strategic position example. Now, take again here let's say raw material or marketing excellence as one of the strategic capabilities. So this is the strategic capability that has been identified, keeping in with the strategy that I've shown you before, as one of the strategic capability. Marketing excellence as one of the strategic capability. Now, having done that, the strategic positions were identified. Incidentally, here, yes, marketing and sales head is one of the strategic positions. National sales head for paper is one of the strategic positions. Product brand manager, product development manager, and zonal managers. These are the strategic positions. So there are 5 positions. And you can see here in this column, the number of players are mentioned. That means in the organizations, the marketing and sales head will be 1, national sales head will be 1, product manager or brand manager will be 1, product development manager 1, 7 zonal managers. So there are, as far as this capability is concerned, marketing excellence, there will be 11 strategic positions. Okay. 11 strategic position holders, strategic talent, 5 positions. So strategic capability 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe whatever. But then when we're talking about marketing excellence, strategic capability, under this capability 5 positions. These are the 5 positions, and these are the total number of position holders, strategic position holders. total 11. So that's the example. Little bit about differentiation, because we are talking about differentiated workforce. Before we move on to what is the kind of differentiation that we are talking about, this is a very common thing that exists in life. There, in every phenomena, you see differentiation. So I'm not elaborating that. Uh, I thought that this is something which I should put up to you by one of the famous CEOs, all-time CEOs, Jack Welch, controversial too. He said differentiation is a way to manage people and business. He was very much in favor of differentiating people. He never considered, the traditional way of our public sector used to work. Everybody same, everybody equal, same increment, same treatment, same everything, entitlement based organization. He was somebody who used to differentiate a lot. Most of us would know, his way of differentiation of people in General Electric. Every year he would churn out this bottom 10%. And that's why he became so controversial. And he'll infuse new 10% into the system, thereby always raising the bar every year in terms of performance. Now, this is the differentiation model which we use here. Also called investment model, because this focus on where we invest in terms of people strategies. This is by, as you can see, is of wealth with this thing matrix. Here, performance and strategic impact. So, performance high, strategic impact high. Here we differentiate in terms of investment. Okay, and this is the quadrant where we invest more. The other strategies are here. Performance is low, but then impact is high. Why should we have those talent? Why should we have those people in the organization? So they either improve or exit. Similarly, both strategic impact high and low performance divest, etc. A little bit more about what is strategic position. This is something where we have often doubt. This is something. This is a quadrant which I really like. Very easy. Somebody said, one of the best examples is airline pilot. Remember one thing, in strategic positions, we always talk about upside of performance. That means with delta improvement in performance, what is the impact on the organization? Okay, the value add. That's what we're calling here as strategic impact. Okay. Now take for example the airline pilot. Okay, इनका performance variability में airline pilot उनको क्या है? He has to fly a plane, fly an aircraft. Now a pilot flies good or somebody flies some better than him. How much difference does it make for the airline in terms of its strategic impact? Nothing, almost nothing, because performance variability doesn't have very significant upside as far as strategic impact is concerned for an airline pilot. So therefore, the strategic positions are found here, where you have high performance variability and high strategic impact. Okay. Now Walmart purchase supply chain manager, we have seen in that example. Nordstrom high-end fashion shop floor and sales staff, etc. These are very important, significant strategic position examples in this matrix, where we see that this particular quadrant defines high performance variability versus high strategic impact. We have moved from strategy to strategic capabilities to strategic positions, now strategic players. Okay, the persons who are holding those strategic positions, as you mentioned in that example, marketing excellence example, 11 players. Now, so what would you like? If you are a business head, you would like that these strategic positions, each of these strategic positions is manned by the best talent that is available in the market, isn't it? Then only this particular person or this particular position holder can make on the strategic capability and in turn the organization strategy and then the business result. So therefore, they need to be assessed. Any strategic position holder needs to be assessed. So there are different things, different nomenclature. Earlier I showed something. Now this is something slightly different. Top talent, emerging talent, career talent, strategic role misfit. As I said, uh, named as A1, A2, A3, A4. This move doesn't mean that you have to move this position holder or talent from the organization. Not necessary. He or she may be a misfit. So move to a better place where the capabilities match. So differentiated HR practices, when after we do this for the strategic players, are the ones. Once we work out the strategic talent inventory, I show you a strategic inventory after this presentation. But I'll first show you the what are the different HR practices. For example, work design for all talents in the organization. All talent is all human resources. So you have job description of all positions, including those for strategic positions, etc. However, what is the differentiated HR practice for the strategic talent? Job description to have top 5 value-adding jobs. You have to ensure that this strategic position holders have top 5 value-adding jobs in the job description, which represent true picture of strategic role focusing on A customers, and to be subjected to review periodically. Every 6 months or so, review this. Similarly, selection and staffing. What we do for all talent. For example, for all talent, you do a reference check. Yeah, there's a policy of reference check, so you do a reference check. In case of senior or critical positions, head HR or senior management is involved in the reference check. For everybody, you do it. What do we do for strategic talents? Reference check to be done rigorously, religiously at the early stages of recruitment itself, involving past superiors, peers, and subordinates. So you don't do a random reference check through an agency or something. So you get in touch with past superiors of the talent. I mean, somebody who's going to occupy a strategic role, the person's peers and subordinates, etc., etc. So these are, as you can see, therefore, this is how the differentiation. This is framed. Okay, this is not a prescribed one. An organization decides to differentiate HR practices for strategic talent this way as compared to all talents in the organization. So similarly, how performance management system is to be differentiated. Very importantly, rewards and compensation. Okay, for all talents, what we can do is, or what a company can do is, compensation internally benchmark, that is within the company itself. The increase is also relative to peers and counterparts in the organization. Whereas for strategic talent, compensation should be as per market. You have a strategic talent with you managing a strategic role, and you benchmark the person's compensation internally, and externally one of your competitors offers a much better compensation as per market. Naturally, he will have a tendency to leave, accept that compensation. I mean, there are other aspects although. So here benchmark should be top 25%. This is a policy as far as rewards and compensation is concerned for strategic talent. So compensation should be a mix of fixed and performance-linked variable pay. Differentiated HR practice for strategic talent in terms of compensation. Similarly, development strategy also different. So the last 3 or 4 slides, what is shown you, are the differentiated HR practices, and this is what we call as differentiated workforce management practice. But then this is not the beginning, this is the end of the entire initiative. It begins with the strategy and then it boils down to these strategies. The end the slide is the reference that I was talking about, and the entire presentation is based on this particular work. There's a book called The Differentiated Workforce: Transforming Talent into Strategic Impact, published by Harvard Business Press. Baker, Hugheslead, and Beatty. Thank you very much. If you're interested, I can show you some of those talent maps. How people how the capabilities measure, because we have capabilities at level 2 and we want to move it to level 5. How do you measure whether it is at level 2, and how do you measure whether it is moving or not, or is it at the same place, or is it going down? There are matrices for measuring that. Essentially, I wanted to show that matrices for measuring the capabilities. As far as measuring the talent, how do you slot somebody in A1, A2, A3, A4, etc. Again, there are uh, uh, in HR, nothing is objective. Still, we call them as objective criteria on the basis of which each talent is measured. Okay, to a large extent, they can be called as objective to a great extent, and then slot them as somebody who's A3 person. You prepare the development plan, a differentiated development plan for the A3 talent. You see over a period of time, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, see whether the person has moved to A2 or not. If he has not, you think differently. Do you like to continue with an A3 person for strategic role, which is an A role for it? No, obviously. So that's how the entire thing moves. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Very, very enriching session. Very interesting. I personally, if I may ask a question, first I'll ask Dr. Rajiv Shukla, Vice Chairperson, to please share closing remarks.
Yeah. Just I have just one query. Professor Mandal has shared that the performance metrics, I think from Jack Walsh, that 10 to 20% is the top performer there, but 75-20% are the heart of the organization, and only 10% are the low performance. So, can any this the role of leadership can play a role to transform this to change this performance metrics? That is one part. And second part is that is there any role of this training and development to shift this performance metrics?
Sir, let me answer the first one first. See, the Jack Welch's idea, as I said during the presentation, was to raise the bar of performance in general electric. So what he had instituted sometime in 2000, early 2000 or so, what he had instituted is what we all know is forced distribution, forced ranking, whatever you call it, bell curve, etc. So even if you can't say that bottom 10% were useless people, in absolute terms, they also might have been good performers, but then he forcefully ranked people in order of their performance. So even a good performer failed at the bottom of the table, and therefore were placed in the bottom 10%. Now, in India also there were examples. I know very well when I was in Aditya Birla Group, that time itself we tried to do this, but it backfired actually, because culturally we are not probably prepared to do it. We decided to have 5%. Slight modification. As you asked the question whether leadership can or the leaders can change this. Yes, yeah. This is what bottom 5%, not once. That's true. Bottom 5%, identify those people, tell them why these people are running faster than you. The ones who are better than them. They are running faster than you. You better run faster than them. It's a race. So you have to leave some of them behind, then only you can get into that category. Otherwise, you will not survive. So 1 year time is given. We used to call it PIP, Performance Improvement Plan. And then after the end of Performance Improvement Plan, even if the person remains in the bottom 5%, exit. And there are cases where people have improved very well, and they did well. So this is, in a way, personally, I feel is a good practice. With proper implementation, keeping the cultural, fabric in mind, it can deliver. That's the first one. Training and development, as you said, somehow I have a personally very what should I say? Not very strong view on training and development. After training and developments, I remember, when I was in India, I think आपको बताया था मैंने पहले, we used to do a lot of leadership development programs or management development programs, and there were these companies. There are several companies like Hindustan Aeronautics, ITI, telephone banate थे. In the company, you will find out of 20 participants, there are 10 people from one of these companies. And not only, project management, you'll find the same guy. Then you have this one, work study, you'll find the same guy. Once I asked, अरे आप तो अभी कुछ दिन पहले 2 महीने पहले ये ट्रेनिंग करके गए थे ना, तो देखा था आपको. बोला हाँ सर, हम लोगों का क्या है, बजट रहता है, और we are some of us, this 10-15 people are identified to attend training. So we are nominated for training. This is one side of the story. And this is real story. Yeah? The second one is, see, in JK, what we used to do is, initially there was a system, there used to be a target. The HR head used to have a target. Even today, many organizations have this. Number of training mandates executed in a company. So if you have 200 people company and 100 people have undergone, 150 mandates. I have done 2 days. Anu might have done 3 days, and so on. So I arranged with that 150 mandates total. So that is the target given. Lock, stock, barrel. You have to complete the target. 150 mandate करना है तो किसी को बुझा के mandates कर लो. For namesake, you have completed your training target. Then we thought of, is it really serving your purpose? Is it focus training? I'm sending, we are nominating Anu for a training which he is not, concerned with. So the match with what Anu needs and actual delivery of that. So we in terminology we use like strike rate, So what is the strike rate? That means targeted training. Anu X training, TK Mandal Y training, Premans Z training. Whether TK Mandal has been given X training or Premans has been given Y training, then it is not, strike rate is 0. So this came into picture at a later stage. So training and development, if you do it in a later way, in a much better focused way, which here we have presented in a differentiated way for strategic talent, then definitely it serves results. So training and development does deliver. There are other things also. In fact, when my name came up last time, I was thinking which one to talk. There was another very good concept of leadership development. Okay, where training and development has been particularly addressed, and 70-20-10 principle has been focused. I don't know, you might have heard about 70-20-10. Is a person gets 70% of this classroom, this interactional training, 20% learning from others, and 10% doing something on hand. Where this is normally happens in a typical order, whereas effectiveness is just reverse. 70% का जो effectiveness है 10% है, और 10% वाला जो on hand करते हैं, on the job करते हैं, उनका effectiveness 70% होता है. So I can keep on talking about it.
Okay sir, thank you. शर्मा जी कुछ बोल रहे हैं, शर्मा जी.
हाँ प्रमाश. हाँ सर. और आपके म्यूट हो गया जी.
म्यूट है.
मेजरेबल होना चाहिए बस, everything.
See, many times we get carried away by numbers. Number, bas achieve the number. That is the main thing. Chaliye, small audience, but then.
But yeah. It was a nice, very elaborative and very experienced telling the real things.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In fact, I have worked very closely with that gentleman, Richard Bitty, for almost 3 years. The entire rollout took 3 years time.
और बहुत बड़ा टॉपिक बहुत छोटे में समाने की कोशिश की है मंडल साहब ने.
इसीलिए मैंने प्लान करके बता दिया. Hey, I could give you the details. Then I would take 3 hours. If I want a sort of workshop kind of thing, which where strategically let us evolve certain strategy. Although, for example, say it may go into 2 days, so on so forth. कोई भी चीज को आप 1 घंटे में भी सिंक कर सकते हैं, 1 हफ्ते में भी चला सकते हैं.
Yes.
हाँ लक्ष्मीपति जी. Yes. You're muted. Can't hear you.
Yeah. Very good evening. I think I'm Lakshmipati. I think Sharma ji has given me opportunity to join this guest lecture of this program. And
Oh.
there are many academicians and all doctorates. I am man from industry. I am from automobile industry.
I see.
Of course, your presentation is very good and well connected with the industry. I have 2 points just to want to add. You said upon PAP process and all, this is common in the industry and all. For any individual's performance and depends on the role of an individual. He may perform in particular role very well. He may not perform in other role. That is one thing. Sometimes at particular level he can perform, maybe as a manager or something he can perform well. Maybe next level he may not be able to perform. There is a doer and a leader. I think there is a difference of this one. So as a leader, need to identify a right role to right level is an important. That's what I feel is one of the input what I have taken from your presentation. Second point is you have done one comparison of this strategic impact and the performance variable. You said aeroplane pilot is need to have a strategic this one. I think you need to have also a performance impact. Am I right? Can you elaborate in that direction?
Yes. I elaborate that. But the first one, I think the first one that you said is excellent and too good. I'll not explain about that. I'll straight away go to the second point. About airline pilot. You see, what I tried to say is, in case of an airline pilot, what happens if there are 2 pilots? Position is airline pilot, and position holders there are 2. I and let's say Mr. Premang Sharma. Okay. Now Premang Sharma may pilot an airplane better than me. So his performance is better than me as far as what do you call it? Flying an airplane is concerned. How does it matter? Is it going to fetch extra revenue for the company, for the airline? Is it going to get extra passengers for the company? Okay, so this has very little strategic impact. This particular role. Okay, you have an excellent pilot. See, Air India, some of you would know, Air India, many of the planes are flown by their executive directors. Okay, in fact, I have experienced quite a few times. But then how does it matter? You will not know until there's an announcement from the cockpit. It doesn't matter. So the passenger doesn't get elated. Oh, one executive director is flying me, so great and so forth. I'll definitely fly Air India next time. No, it doesn't happen. No. So performance variability doesn't bring in, a proportionate strategic impact. I said upside. You always look at the upside. No, this is the upside. One may argue, but if I am a poor pilot, I'll crash the plane. Okay, but when you talk about strategic positions, you don't look at downside. That's the difference.
Thank you, Mandalji.
Great session, sir. We learned a lot, and those who didn't attend missed a lot today. I now have the privilege to propose words of thanks. First and foremost, I am profusely grateful to Dr. T.K. Mandal, our learned resource person and our favorite senior. Thank you, sir, for throwing light on a highly unusual and unique topic and for sharing your valuable knowledge and experience with us. The insights you shared were well received by those who attended. I also would like to thank in absentia our respected inspirational Dr. Upinder Dhar, Dr. Mrs. Santosh Dhar, Dr. George Thomas. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Rajiv Shukla. Shukla sir, you spared your time. He's Vice Chairperson, ISTD Indore chapter. And thank you, sir, for sharing the opening remarks, for sharing your inputs on the topic. I would also extend my thanks to GMP Rao sir, to Satyapal sir for staying and sharing their inputs. Lakshmipati sir for attending our session today. And Premang Sharma sir, you are the only representative of the managing committee of ISTD Indore chapter. So thank you for being a strong pillar of support.
You must especially thank me for being motivated to deliver in an audience which has
three very close acquaintances of mine, Dr. Rajesh Shukla, Dr. Anup Kandan. We talk day in, day out.
Yes, sir. But it
So
was a great topic and a great learning, and I will
I tried to
try.
make it as simple to understand as possible. There's no jargon, no
Simple and short.
Yes, sir.
but the concept has to be explained. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you.
Thanks a
Right.
lot, sir.
Right.
Anu, I may introduce Lakshmipati ji. He is retired Vice President of iShares.
Yes,
I
sir.
says okay.
Sir,
Indore.
a small request to Satyapal sir. Very warm welcome to Lakshmipati sir.
Thank you.
We would love to see you as a STD member, sir. If you are in
Sure.
Indore. So
I think yesterday morning, Mr. Sharma ji spoke to me and he explained about this ISTD and all. Then I said I will not miss this lecture.
yes, sir.
So that's why today I joined. Of course, I'll also try to share any interested topics and all if it is there. If the group is interested, being an industry man, generally we talk about the mostly an industry or analysis, such type of things. Being I'm a quality person,
Yes.
I took the retirement from the this one after 34 years of experience, and I'm working on my own special project on the hybrid vehicles.
Okay, sir.
When the
So,
opportunity comes, definitely I'll share. Thanks for
ISTD Indore chapter needs people from industry, experienced people from industry like you, sir.
Okay, sure.
So,
Thanks for your. Definitely I'll join.
yes.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thanks
Thank
again.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks everyone.
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you.